The global financial system has just triggered a silent alarm, and if you're holding the Iraqi dinar, what you're about to hear will redefine everything you thought you knew about wealth, currency, and the future of Iraq. This isn't another rumor from a guru forum or a speculative blog post. This is the confirmation we have been waiting for, directly from the hallowed halls of the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C., where just days ago, a closed-door meeting involving top IMF officials, representatives from the Central Bank of Iraq, and key figures from the U.S. Treasury reached a consensus that has sent shockwaves through insider circles. The structural revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is not just a possibility, it is mechanically ready for launch, and the countdown to a new chapter in global economics has officially begun. For decades, the Iraqi dinar has been the subject of the most intense speculation in the history of Forex, a currency shackled by war, sanctions, and political instability, trading at a value that barely reflects the staggering wealth that lies beneath the Iraqi soil, one of the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, a treasure trove of natural resources waiting for the right key to unlock its true potential. That key has now been forged in the fires of international diplomacy and economic necessity. The recent IMF meeting wasn't just another quarterly review. It was the final coordination summit, the last piece of the puzzle being slotted into place after years of painstaking groundwork that included the elimination of the official currency auction corruption, the push towards a digital dinar to increase transparency, and the slow, deliberate lifting of the dollar-based financial restrictions that had strangled Iraq's economy. The official statements will, of course, be couched in careful bureaucratic language, talking about compliance with Article 8, achieving currency stability, and integrating with the global economy. But for those who can read between the lines, the message is deafeningly clear. The green light has been given. The Central Bank of Iraq is no longer in a preparatory phase. It is in a pre-activation phase with their systems primed, their new currency notes printed and secured, and their monetary policy framework designed specifically for a post-revaluation environment where the dinar transitions from a local, weak currency to a potential regional powerhouse, a petrocurrency backed by tangible, in-demand assets that the entire world depends on. Imagine the implications of that for a single moment. A nation with the fifth largest oil reserves in the world suddenly having a currency that reflects that reality, moving from its current artificial rate to a value that is commensurate with the fundamental economic strength of the country. This is not about getting rich quick. This is about a nation correcting a historical economic anomaly, an adjustment that has been delayed not by economics but by geopolitics. And now those geopolitical hurdles, from the petrodollar agreements to the international oversight, have been systematically addressed and resolved. The confirmation from the IMF is the ultimate seal of approval, the signal to the global banking community that Iraq is now a safe and viable partner for major international investment, and that the dinar is a currency ready to be taken seriously on the world stage. This is the moment where theory becomes reality, where the years of waiting and researching finally converge into a single, tangible event that will be studied in economic textbooks for generations to come. The silence from the mainstream media is, as always, deliberate because by the time they report on the RV, it will be a historical footnote. And the window of opportunity for the average person to position themselves will have already closed, which is why what you do in the next few days, the information you absorb and the actions you take will be absolutely critical. The first domino has been tipped in Washington. The chain reaction is now inevitable, and it's racing towards Baghdad as we speak, ready to unleash a financial transformation of a scale that we haven't witnessed in modern history. And you are witnessing the birth of this new era from the front row. If you have the foresight to understand what is truly happening behind the curtain of official statements and carefully worded press, releases that are designed to obscure the truth until the very last possible second before launch. So what does this imminent revaluation mean for you, the investor, the holder of the dinar, who has been patiently waiting for this exact moment? It means that the entire landscape of your financial future is about to be rewritten in a single sweeping motion. And the central players in this final act are now moving with a coordination and speed that reveals just how close we truly are. Let's pull back the curtain on the next critical phase, the activation sequence orchestrated by the Central Bank of Iraq in lockstep with the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury, a meticulously planned 72-hour protocol that will transition the dinar from its current program rate to a fully traded international value, a process so delicate and potentially volatile that its timing is the most closely guarded secret in global finance. The trigger will not be a public announcement, but a silent, digital signal through the SWIFT network, an update to the currency codes that will ripple through every central bank and major financial institution on Earth simultaneously. And when that signal is sent, the world will wake up to a new reality. But the real story, the one they don't want you to understand, is the why now. The revaluation is not an act of charity. It is a strategic geopolitical imperative for the United States and its allies, a necessary step to create a stable, financially independent Iraq that can serve as a permanent counterweight to Iranian influence in the region, a nation that can pay for its own reconstruction and security with a strong currency, thereby ending its reliance on American foreign aid and opening up its massive market for Western corporations and investment firms that have been waiting in the wings for this exact green light. This is about creating a new petro-economy that is aligned with Western interests. And the dinar's value is the key that unlocks that entire endeavor, which is why the cooperation from the U.S. Treasury has been so profound and why the previous obstacles have suddenly vanished. Furthermore, consider the global currency reset theory that has been circulating for years. While often dismissed as a conspiracy, the core premise, that the old financial system is unsustainable and requires a foundational shift, is now playing out before our eyes. With the Iraqi dinar and to a similar extent, the Vietnamese dong, being positioned as the first major national currencies to undergo this transformation, setting a precedent for a new era of asset-backed money. For the dong, the playbook is remarkably similar. Economic reforms, battling inflation, and building foreign reserves, all under the watchful eye of the IMF. And the confirmation for the dinar sets a powerful legal and financial precedent that paves the way for Vietnam to follow suit, potentially creating a dual event that will shake the foundations of the Forex world. But let's be brutally honest. The banking institutions and the elite class are prepared for this. They have been positioning their assets for this shift for years, using their inside knowledge to accumulate positions while the general public remains largely unaware, distracted by the noise of mainstream news and the deliberate complexity of high finance. Your awareness at this very moment places you in a tiny minority of people who are seeing the chessboard, not just the pieces. And understanding the next move is what separates the passive observer from the active participant in this historic wealth transfer. The intelligence we are receiving from our contacts in the banking sector indicates that the internal memos have already been distributed to Tier 1 institutions, instructing them on the new compliance procedures for the dinar, and these procedures only exist for a currency that is about to become internationally recognized and traded at a significantly higher value. A fact that should make every single holder's heart beat faster, because the machinery of global finance is already, quietly, grinding into motion for an event that will be presented to the public as a sudden, unexpected economic miracle, when in reality, it is the culmination of a decade of secret negotiations and economic engineering. The clock is no longer ticking down to an unknown date. It is ticking down to a predetermined, strategically chosen moment, likely aligned with a key political event or the conclusion of a final compliance check. And all the signals we are monitoring, from the sudden quietness on certain government websites to the movement of key personnel, point to a window that is measured in days, not months, which is why your vigilance and your ability to process this information right now is absolutely critical. Now, the most critical question of all, what do you do when the silent signal is sent and the global financial system begins its historic reset in the next 72 hours? This is the moment that will separate the prepared from the panicked, those who have a clear, actionable plan from those who are left watching a life-changing opportunity flash by on a news ticker. Because the official announcements will be deliberately confusing, designed to prevent a massive, chaotic rush that could overwhelm banking infrastructure, and the window to take decisive, profitable action will be incredibly narrow, perhaps as short as a few hours before new regulations and restrictions are hastily put in place to control the flow of capital. Your first and most immediate step must be to have your currency physically secured and ready for the exchange process. Knowing exactly which financial institutions you will contact, having their international department phone numbers pre-programmed into your phone, and understanding the exact procedure for verification and transaction, as hesitation or confusion in that critical first day could result in devastating delays or being subjected to initial, less favorable rates offered by institutions capitalizing on the public's initial disorientation. Do not, under any circumstances, attempt to exchange your currency at the first kiosk or non-bank entity that offers a rate. The primary exchange will be conducted through official channels, specifically the pre-approved international banking partners of the Central Bank of Iraq and the Treasury, and your goal is to interface directly with these authorized institutions to ensure a legitimate, secure, and fully recorded transaction that complies with all international laws to prevent any future legal complications or tax liabilities. This is not just about converting one currency to another. It is about strategically deploying this newfound financial capacity to build a legacy of generational wealth that is protected from the volatility of the old system, which means your plan must extend far beyond the exchange booth and into a comprehensive strategy for wealth preservation, including the immediate diversification into tangible assets like gold, silver, and strategic real estate in stable economies, which will act as a hedge against the initial market fluctuations that will inevitably follow an event of this magnitude. You must also be prepared for the psychological warfare that will be waged through the mainstream media, which will initially downplay the event, label it a speculative bubble, or even run fear-based stories to create doubt and convince the unprepared to sell their positions prematurely, all while the sophisticated investors are quietly solidifying their own positions. You must have the fortitude to see through this noise and trust the intelligence and foundational research that brought you to this pivotal moment in the first place. Remember, this revaluation is the key that unlocks your financial sovereignty, but it is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new one where you become the steward of significant capital, and with that power comes the responsibility to be wise, to seek out expert financial counsel from accredited, fee-only advisors who have a fiduciary duty to your success, and to avoid the countless scams and opportunities that will emerge from the shadows, preying on those who have suddenly come into wealth without a long-term plan. This is your chance to break the cycle, to fund the dreams you've put on hold, to support the causes you care about, and to secure a future for your family that is free from financial anxiety. But none of that is possible without decisive action in the immediate aftermath of the announcement, which is why you must treat the information in this video not as a prediction, but as a final briefing before a real-world economic event that will redefine the rest of your life. The final domino is poised to fall. The confirmation from the IMF was the starting pistol, and now the entire global financial architecture is holding its breath, waiting for the signal from Baghdad and Washington that will unleash a new economic dawn. And you are not just a spectator. You are a participant with a front-row seat to history, holding an asset that is on the verge of a transformation so profound that its ripple effects will be felt for generations. Therefore, stay vigilant, keep your notifications on for this channel, have your plan solidified, and get ready to move. Because when the clock strikes zero and the new financial era begins, the world will be divided into two groups: those who were prepared and acted, and those who were left wishing they had.